COP26 is over. We delve into the local impact of the climate summit.
COP does keep 1.5 alive.
A local charity lights up the path with a night walk to raise money for the homeless. And it's the most wonderful time of the year, as Winchester's Christmas market makes a triumphant return. Hello and welcome to Winchester News Online. I'm Matt Ricks-Taylor. Now it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, and after being delayed a year thanks to COVID, the Winchester Christmas market has descended upon us once again. Many have travelled afar to visit the market, which is once again taking place outside the cathedral. Cameron Cornell and Grace Benson report.
Recognised as one of the best in Europe, Winchester's famous Christmas market is back this year. The market, known for its scenic location next to the cathedral, attracts more than 400,000 visitors per year.
Oh, it's great. It's absolutely great to be back. It's lovely here, yeah, it's really good. I do think it's a really good market. I think because just the atmosphere is really nice. It's in a beautiful setting. Lots of people come through and everybody's very nice.
We've really enjoyed it so far, actually. Like you say, it's our first time. So it was a new experience for us, but it's actually been really busy.
Some controversy has been stirred this year with the ice rink, or lack of one, which is usually one of the highlights of people's visits. But the replacement stage has allowed local musicians and buskers to perform. A timely addition in a year where everyone is grateful to return.
I think everyone is feeling the need of doing something and just, you know, the feeling of celebration, I think, and getting ready for Christmas, and I think treating ourselves a little bit, I think it is.
And there was plenty of Christmas spirit, with stalls offering everyone's personal favourites. Mulled wine, spirits and beers were all available in ranges of flavours. But from cheese, chutneys and jams, to winter clothes and chest-shaped salt and pepper, there was something for everyone to enjoy. After Winchester's famous Christmas market was taken away from us last year, the festivities are back for everyone to enjoy this year. The market will be open until the 22nd of December, so visitors have around a month to come and have a look around. Cameron Cornell, Winchester News Online.
Preparations were made all of last week as Winchester Cathedral got ready to welcome back its Christmas market on Friday, after taking a year off due to the pandemic. The market has been running since 2006 and is now recognised as one of the best in Europe, attracting international visitors as well as locals. Now hosting its 14th market, Winchester is beginning to come to life again during the festive period.
I think people have really missed Christmas, and I think that having a year out has really impacted people, and people really want an opportunity to celebrate and to share time and experiences with family and friends. We're very aware that people come into Winchester to spend time at the market, but similarly we also know that they go out into the high street and they're making use of the shops and the restaurants and the taxis and the buses, and so it's really important for the whole economy of Winchester.
Changes have been made this year to try and keep the market as COVID safe as possible. These include wider walkways, larger open spaces and a bigger food court. Arguably the most noticeable change though is the replacement of the ice rink with a new stage, where over 60 local acts will be performing.
Despite these changes though, the festive atmosphere has still stayed the same.
Well, it certainly attracts people in from outside. I mean, busloads of people, so I suppose it raises the profile of the place.
It's always good to come to, and there's some brilliant stalls to come to. This year there's an awful lot of gin stalls and things like that, so it's held us up along this side, but it's a brilliant market.
It's an event in Winchester, and everyone talks about it from where I live back home, so it's got a big deal. People come far and wide for it.
Grace Benson, Winchester News Online.
From Winchester to Sutton Scotney, we're spoilt for choice for Christmas markets this year. Dorian Pavro stepped into this one.
After being cancelled last year due to COVID-19, Sutton Scotney's Christmas market is back and in full festive swing. Featuring handmade knitted item stalls and raffle for a Christmas hamper, this small but affluent Christmas market brings the people of Sutton Scotney together in the Victoria Hall.
It's been our first market in 2 years, so I think what it's shown is that people are just delighted to get back, support a local event and come and have an opportunity to meet people. Everyone's commented this morning about the lovely ambience here and the really good mix of stalls.
Even though the atmosphere is great here today, the impacts of the pandemic are only just fading away, as these independent sellers are trying to get back on their feet after a difficult year.
I started crocheting a couple of years ago, just for a hobby in the evenings, and taught myself, and now I make animals and different items, purses and things. And I wasn't quite sure what to do with it all because it was building up in the house, so we thought we'd sell it all for charity, and at the moment I'm supporting the Hampshire Isle of Wight Air Ambulance.
Many of the stall owners here today would be donating to charities from the proceeds of their sales, showing that not only is this Christmas market good fun, it's also for a good cause. Dorian Poirot, Winchester News Online.
Now, in keeping with the festivities, no one's at home because the Christmas lights are on in Winchester and Bournemouth. Our reporters Tom Hooker and Ciara Donachie were there.
The annual Winchester Christmas light switch on made a joyful return last Thursday, brightening the faces of a big crowd. It saw the return of performances building up to the event, hosting a wide variety of acts, from fun gags to choirs.
You know, apart from the setting that we're singing in, it's also the fact that we've all been singing on a TV screen for 18 months, so this is our first sort of term back in the room, and just to be singing everywhere is great, so the guys are really looking forward to it.
Really great. It's so nice to be doing some concerts again. It's such a lovely place to perform with lots of people and feeling all Christmassy and getting in the spirit. It's really great to be performing. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas everywhere you go.
In addition to the stage, children and grown-ups alike were also able to take a seat next to Santa on his sleigh, as well as step inside their own winter wonderland with a giant snow globe. And after the long year we've had, it didn't take people much persuading to have some fun.
I think everyone just needs it a bit more this year, so let's go Christmas, let's spread the cheer around.
I think after everything we've been through over the last 24 months, it's about time everyone just got into the spirit and enjoy it with their families.
Winchester today has offered us the beginning and an opportunity to get the ball rolling for a great Christmas. Happy Christmas, everybody. Start enjoying it.
Gosh, I think we need something to be joyful about in this current climate, I have to say.
So with Winchester's festivities now officially underway, maybe now is the perfect time to get into the Christmas spirit. Tom Hooker, Winchester News Online.
Bournemouth turned on their Christmas lights today after taking 1 year off due to COVID-19.
From festive treats to twinkly lights, people gathered to Bournemouth Gardens on Friday to celebrate the return of Christmas cheer. Unlike Winchester, Bournemouth saw the return of the outdoor ice rink.
I'm very excited. I'm happy that the market and the ice rink have returned. That's amazing. So happy. The kids love it. We love it. We come every year usually. So yeah, really happy it's back.
Bournemouth's festive trail is open until the 2nd of January 2022, giving people lots of time to get into the Christmas spirit. Ciara Donachie, Winchester News Online.
COP26 is at an end, but what does that mean for Winchester? Alistair English finds out more.
COP26 has finished and lots of progressive pledges have been made. But how does it affect people in Winchester? Local MP Steve Brine believes residents in Winchester can make an impact to the climate crisis and thinks COP's aims are achievable.
If we can stop burning and phase down, eventually phase out, the dirtiest of fossil fuels in coal, then obviously that impacts Winchester and impacts the air quality that we have. It impacts the warming and the weather changes that we're impacted by. If we can make sure that we have cleaner, greener cars and that they are more affordable, then that becomes a great benefit to us in Winchester. And I think, COP does keep 1.5 alive.
A 55% reduction is needed to hit 1.5 degrees. Currently, net zero commitments would take 0.5 off of the 2.7 degree projection now. Climate groups are not as positive as MPs in reaching that 1.5 degree target set, but do remain optimistic.
We don't know whether we can reach it or not. So yes, there is a chance that people are going to be assuming that this is a done deal, but we don't know, and therefore there is still hope.
Deals at COP26 have been progressive. World leaders are coming together to push on pledges made at the last influential COP in Paris. Lots of money is being spent on climate change across the world, and climate groups such as WINOL will hope 1.5 can be kept alive at a national and local level. Alistair English, Winchester News Online.
At COP26, world leaders made decisions on climate, but in Winchester, young people have got to have a say on what they think needs to be done for the planet at a climate assembly. Hager Hagen went to the event.
The next generation got to have a say on how they believe Winchester should become more climate conscious at the Winchester District Young People's Climate Assembly last Saturday. They got to hear experts and other speakers talk about how different things affect the climate, before discussing how they want the city to change towards net zero carbon.
I would say it's very important as a project because it's one of the first in the Winchester area that really looks at getting people's opinions in a certain demographic, because obviously we hear a lot about the debate around climate change and how it's affecting all of us, but there's not really much in the way of, in this area, areas that we can all get together in and discussion forum to talk about these issues and really put forward what the public wants in that sense.
For me, it's understanding the viewpoint of the climate crisis as a health crisis. So it's integrating the way we exist as a society and how we're going to continue living.
Participants discussed how food, energy, homes, transport, jobs and well-being relates to climate change and how to lower their impact on the climate. After discussing the different topics, the participants voted on which actions they thought were most important.
Well, obviously the young people are the future. I mean, it's their future. Leaders need to listen to young people, and I'll take it back to my council and see what actions we can take from this. It's really important.
While many young people have fought against climate change and participated in protests, this climate assembly gives young people a new and different opportunity to have a say, influence politics and create change. Hager Hagen, Winchester News Online.
Last Sunday, nationwide vigils were held to protest the underfunding of maternity units and shortages of midwives. Grace Benson was there at Winchester's march.
Crowds of midwives, NHS workers and parents gathered outside Winchester's Royal Hampshire County Hospital on Sunday to conduct a vigil calling for increased funding and recruitment for the NHS's maternity sector.
I think more and more midwives will leave the profession because, like all public servants, midwives are desperately demoralised. It's a very, very hard job. The government really needs to actually pay attention to what people think, because I don't think it's just Labour supporters who value the NHS and value their midwives.
I think raising awareness of just the incredible work that midwives do, and I think it must just be such a tough job and something that I think you don't really think about until you've maybe had a baby yourself or obviously you're in the profession.
At 2 o'clock, crowds marched down to Winchester's town centre, and as they went, drivers honked their horns in solidarity. Once at the town centre, people took turns reading out speeches, poems and sharing their own experiences.
The NHS has been in a crisis for many years. This is not something which was born with the election of Boris Johnson. This is something that has been going on forever.
The Nursing and Midwifery Council revealed earlier this year that between April and September, for every newly qualified midwife, there were 18 nurses.
Today there is a national shortage of midwives. We're 3,500 midwives short, according to RCM calculations. Don't get more midwives, we're putting mothers and babies at risk. We've got to do something.
It's a massive crisis and midwives are leaving in their droves, either through early retirement, natural retirement, stress, anxiety, a million different things. Working under really overstretched conditions is quite dangerous. So if nothing happens, we'll just have to march again. That's it.
Grace Benson, Winchester News Online.
The regeneration of the centre of Winchester has been debated for decades now, but as yet, nothing has been put in place at Silver Hill. Last night there was more bad news as Winchester City Council revealed the latest plans for any development are too expensive. Torrin Budd was at the open forum and can tell us what happened.
Well, Matt, yes, as you say, they revealed that the cost would be too much to demolish the current estate that is there. The redevelopment will be pushed back for a few years. The vendors currently in the area will be moved on after Christmas. They've been given a short-term lease to see them through the busy festive period. And then the arts and cultural hub, which was all along planned to go into the new developments, will instead move into the vendors' previous shops until it's time to deconstruct the entire area, at which point they'll build the affordable housing as well as the private housing and all the new retail and public areas, but it will be in a few years' time, unfortunately.
Well, thanks for that, Torrin. Now into a problem that's blighting dogs. A rare disease that can be fatal is spreading across the county. Ellie Dixon has been investigating further. A warning that some viewers may find some pictures in her report distressing.
A local veterinary practice is urging dog owners to be cautious of a potentially life-threatening disease called CRGV, often known as Alabama rot.
Alabama rot was first identified in the USA in the 1980s, and at that point it exclusively affected greyhounds. It was first recognised in the UK in 2012, and it's been affecting multiple breeds of dog. So it's a disease that causes skin sores in dogs, typically below the elbows or below the knee. In some dogs, that's all they get, a skin sore, which then goes on and heals over a few weeks. But unfortunately, in a proportion of dogs, they go on and develop kidney failure. So that's quite severe. And they have signs like vomiting, going off their food, being very tired. And unfortunately, when dogs develop this sudden onset kidney failure that we call acute kidney injury, then the mortality rate, the death rate is up at over 85%, sadly.
The cause of the disease is still unknown. However, over 91% of cases were seen during the colder months between November and May. It has also been found that generally dogs who were affected by the disease were walked in muddy woodland areas.
I absolutely don't want people to panic about the disease. The chance of your own individual dog being affected is very low. But what I would say is be vigilant. If your dog does have an unexplained skin sore, it's very unlikely to be CRGV Alabama rot. But the best advice I can give is go and have a chat with your local vet, and hopefully they'll be able to give you some reassurance.
Eleanor Dixon, Winchester News Online.
So Ellie, is there anything owners can do to avoid their dogs from getting Alabama rot?
Currently, there's no specific prevention tactic, but some dog owners have been washing their dogs off after a particularly muddy walk. Some specialists do believe that this could help because there's potentially an environmental factor to the disease. However, there's no scientific grounding behind this. Anderson Moors have also launched a website filled with information and advice for pet owners and veterinary specialists to find out more information about the disease.
So how many cases have been found?
So over 270 cases have been confirmed since the disease was first found in the UK in 2012. So far this year, Anderson Moors have recorded 27 cases. The year before that, it was 47 cases. In 2019, it was 19 cases, and 2018, it was 18 cases. On the website, a live case map can also be found, and in a 10-mile radius around Winchester, we've seen cases in New Alresford, Bishop's Waltham, and a couple in Eastleigh and Charners Ford, but most of the cases seem to be around the New Forest, Southampton and Portsmouth.
Thanks for that, Ellie. Now, Salisbury's Old Youth Centre might be coming back as locals fight to buy and fix the derelict building and make it a part of the community once again. Kaylee Hazelden has more.
Grosvenor and Riverside House has the potential to return to its former glory after nearly 6 years of neglect. The local community of Salisbury are organising a list of fundraising events in order to buy and restore the building, with Rise, Resound, Rebuild, also known as R3, spearheading the events.
I never went through it myself, but I know how much the building means to people. I've got a bunch of mates, like everyone that comes to this bar, basically this pub, plays in bands, and so many of them actually went through Grosvenor House and learnt there, and it was a surrogate family for many of them, and they still hang out today, they're still friends today, but we don't have it anymore because it matters a lot because we don't have a hub, we don't have a central hub in Salisbury. There's loads of loads of good work that goes on. There's loads of like charities around that do stuff with the youth, the homeless. There are apprenticeship schemes and things around as well. But there's not like a single place that is the central point. And this building used to be it.
The first in the series of fundraising events is a lineup of the bands that used to play at the Grosvenor House, including Lifter, Oversize and Restless Wrestler. These bands will perform and demonstrate the importance the house once had in the community.
I think by the time we were about 13 we were using Grosvenor House with bass connections to play music, and we literally would show up, pay £1 and we get a room, a bunch of amps, and us and our friends could just play music together. And that has become quite significant for me just because I just didn't stop playing music, and it's always been a sort of fairly productive thing for me in terms of my life, and to hear that there's now a collective trying to get Grosvenor back to what it was is quite encouraging.
Kaylee Hazardon, Winchester News Online.
Last Thursday marked the end of the Winchester Film Festival's 10th anniversary. We sent our reporter Oliver McLennan to cover the lights, camera and action.
We had Silverhill 1, Silverhill 2.
Rounding out the event, guests were treated to event organiser John Hayes' top 5 picks for films that have won awards at the film festival. One of the directors, Joshua Hicks, told us about the relationship between viewers and the films that they watch.
I find that films that deal solely in reality don't end up getting very close to universal truths. And people don't tend to be that interested in being presented with things in a kind of like stark and sort of raw, kind of realistic style. Like realism, as we refer to it in film, is sort of just another aesthetic. There's nothing to actually suggest that is realism.
While some people are enjoying the film festival and having a fun night out, for others, films can mean so much more.
Film is nothing but another tool of telling stories, and I don't know, mankind has been telling stories since the dawn of men, and we've just recently discovered this new format of telling stories. And I think it's a very compelling format because it combines a lot of previous ways of telling stories. You have writing, but you have also the acting of theater, and you have music, and you have light, and so it's like a combination of many storytelling tools, and that's what I think makes it so powerful.
The Winchester Film Festival is coming to an end. After 11 nights and 16 venues, it all comes down to this. Over 4,000 films were submitted to the event, 8 of which will win an award. We've seen a variety of films over the nights, including The Ice Cubes, a Belgian introspective drama filmed in one continuous shot that explores the pain of past relationships. 2. Hostel Eden, a Spanish anthology about people who all end up booking the same room in a seedy hostel. Truly, the event has opened our eyes up to what the future of filmmaking could be, and added some more movies to add to the watch list. Oliver McLennan, Winchester News Online.
Volunteers from Winchester's University brought some light to the Beacon night shelter. Ania Leleva has more.
Student volunteers from University of Winchester worked side by side with a Beacon homeless shelter to raise awareness in a night walk.
Tonight we were doing a night walk for Winchester Beacon. They are formerly known as Winchester Church's Night Shelter. An area charity helping to light a way out of homelessness. So the reason behind our walk is to help facilitate that. We sort of jumped on that light at the Beacon, heads off glow sticks that you've probably seen tonight. And yeah, mostly just helping to raise money as well as raise awareness, especially for their name change, because a lot of people haven't quite realised it's the same charity.
Starting from Winchester Cathedral, students and Winchester residents walked through the town using glow sticks to show the support for the shelter and light the way out of homelessness.
Doing events like this help us to meet people, and also more than just about donations, just talk to them about what we do here and how we support people, and the positive impact we make on people, the lives of people who are experiencing homelessness. Sometimes it can be very hard to know how to help, I think, when you see someone who you think may be homeless. But we want people to know that here we really, really do change lives, and that's what it's about.
The joint effort brought together more than 30 people that were supporting this cause, and they got treated with a hot chocolate at the end of the walk. Winchester University volunteers are determined to make a change and recognize that homelessness is becoming a bigger social issue. This is Andy Lillema, Winchester News Online.
The Railway Inn experienced a power cut on Friday night, and the venue had to cancel the night's show. Charlie Swaddling was there.
The Railway Inn experienced a power cut on Friday night. This was due to the circuit breaker melting, and it was unable to be fixed before the night's acts were supposed to perform.
Yeah, I mean, it's the nature of the beast, isn't it, when you run a pub? Not that I am the proprietor running it, but there's always going to be a lot of electricity being used when you're running heaters outside, as well as big PAs and fridges and sound systems, you know, lights. It's very frustrating. It's going to be a very good gig tonight. A lot of people. It's the first time the current landlords experienced this. I think a lot of people understand that this is beyond our control, really, and you know, just gutted, really. I think a lot of people were really looking forward to tonight.
Drinks could no longer be served, and customers were asked to leave the premises after they had finished their drinks, which they were asked to finish outside as it was unsafe to stay in. The bands that were supposed to perform were Roller Coaster, a tribute band for Dave Grohl, which performed songs from Nirvana, Foo Fighters and Queens of the Stone Age, and Led Zeppelin tribute band Zed Zeppelin, who were going to open for them.
Absolutely gutted. It's gone from up here to down there in seconds. And how quickly the night's changed. Just really gutted. Felt like everything was ready. Maybe just wasn't to be tonight, but we'll be back another night.
Fans were also disappointed with the unfortunate events, as the highly anticipated night had to be postponed.
It's just a massive shame. Out of all the shows we're going to work, basically I work here at the door, and out of all the shows that we had on, this was the one that I was really looking forward to working.
While fans are disappointed about tonight's events, the Railway Inn are working hard to get the show rescheduled for December. Roller Coaster will be making a return to the Railway Inn in February. Charlie Swaddling, Winchester News Online.
That's all the news from this week. Now let's kick on over to Patrick Hill with the sport.
Thanks, Matt. Basingstoke Town were back in action this week as they hosted Chertsey in the league. Our man Harry Jones was there.
Basingstoke Town were back in league action last Tuesday night as they hosted the unbeaten Chertsey at the Winklebury Sports Complex. The visitors took control of proceedings early on, going close on 2 occasions within the opening 15 minutes. And it didn't take much longer than that for their dominance to pay off, with Jake Baxter striking the only goal of the half in the 23rd minute. Basingstoke's evening quickly went from bad to worse as the second half kicked off, with the away side doubling their lead in the 50th minute, much to the delight of the Chertsey Town ultras behind the goal. The misery didn't stop there for Danny Brownlee's men either, with Mark Bidmed making it 3 with 20 minutes to go. Before Jake Baxter made it 4 moments later, striking his 8th goal of the campaign. As the Chertsey fans started to have their fun, substitute Scott Day made it a 5-star performance from the visitors. Before Palmer struck late for the hosts with a consolation goal. Full time at the Winklebury, Basingstoke Town 1, Chertsey Town 5.
First and foremost, we came up against a good side. Unfortunately, we've been bettered probably by about 80% of the park, which is unlike us. We usually control games quite well. We don't play percentage football, and sometimes that happens in games where you come unstuck a little bit if your first touch isn't right. And I don't think this team, over the course of the last 2 years, which we've pretty much been together as a unit, have demonstrated that. I think we've always shown a level of consistency that is demonstrates the quality of the squad. But today, first touches were wrong, final passes to the final third but ultimately we came up against a good side.
So a torrid evening for Basingstoke Town tonight as they fall to their first home defeat of the season at the hands of the still unbeaten Chertsey. And with 3 away fixtures coming up next, things aren't about to get any easier for Dan Brownlee's side. So all that remains to be seen now is just how can they recover after tonight's humiliation. Harry Jones, Winchester News Online.
So Harry's here with me. Harry, what were your thoughts on that Basingstoke loss?
Well, yeah, it was a really disappointing performance last Tuesday night, especially since they were unbeaten at home going into this game. They'd only lost once all season at the hands of Bracknell Town, who are top of the league, so, you know, a very good side. So they would have been going into the game with a lot of confidence. Chertsey sit around 7th in the league. They are unbeaten, but they've not won all their games this season, so you thought at home, unbeaten there, you thought you can go and get a good result. But yeah, on the night it was really disappointing. I thought in the first half they weren't too bad, went into the break 1-0 down. But in the second half, they just capitulated, you know, they folded like a pack of cards. They were terrible. They conceded 4 in the space of about 25 minutes. And manager Danny Brownlee, he wasn't too happy after the final whistle when we spoke to him. He told me that it was the second biggest defeat he's ever been on the hands of. So really disappointing. He seemed really annoyed in his interview. But he said that Basingstoke could recover. But yeah, on the night, not great. Pretty poor from Basingstoke.
But they did bounce back on the weekend, this time being on the right side of a 5-1 scoreline, which takes them back into the top 3.
Yeah, well, they were fantastic at the weekend. Brad Wilson, I thought, was the standout. He went and scored a hat-trick. I watched him against Uxbridge a few weeks ago and he played on the left wing. He was fantastic, you know, really quick, powerful, fantastic winger. He played centre-back in the game against Chertsey and I thought he had a pretty poor game. But I definitely think he's more natural going forward. He proved that again at the weekend. He's been a real asset for them going forward this season when he's played up front. So I think it was strange, the decision to play him at centre-back against Chertsey, and obviously it didn't work out too well, but the recovery from the squad as a whole was just fantastic. You know, Brownlee said in his post-match press conference that he's got a group of lads who essentially recover. They work together as a unit and he's never going to doubt them, and well, he was right not to. They recovered fantastically and they're up now to 3rd in the league. They still only lost twice all season. Obviously that result against Chertsey wasn't great, it wasn't ideal for them whatsoever, but just you couldn't have asked for more from that recovery, I'd say.
Thank you, Harry.
Cheers. That's all for sport coverage this week. Back to you, Matt.
Thanks, Patrick. That's all we've got time for this week, but we'll be back next week. See you then. And the only one I missed out was yours.